Hey folks, it's Jerry Orloski. Welcome to another edition of Car Wash Show and Tell here at Orloski's Car Wash. I'm here with Emil Feist. He's got a 63 Impala. It looks pretty awesome. So we're gonna get right into it and find out about the car, his history with the car, everything about it. Nice to meet you, Emil.
Same here.
Right on.
Glad to be here.
Glad you came.
Yep.
You came. So tell me about the car. Well, first let's start with this. Were you always into cars? How'd you get into cars? How'd it work?
I was always into cars from 14 years old up, and I couldn't get one. I didn't have enough money for insurance, so I didn't wait. I didn't get a car until I graduated.
What was your first car?
My first car was a 55 Dodge station wagon.
Yeah.
That was my father's.
You're right.
I got called to go to work in the union, and he said, well, here.
That was right out of high school.
Right out of high school,
Yeah.
And then I got in an accident with that. A guy broadsided me on Washington Street, and I totaled the car.
Yeah.
So then I needed a car for the next day of work, so I bought his other car off him, and he bought a new one.
It worked out for your dad.
So it all worked out, yeah.
Yeah,
It all worked out. My third car was a 63 convertible.
Was it Impala? Same
Impala
thing.
convertible, 283. It was black with the red interior.
Wow.
And a black roof. It was convertible.
So how old were you riding around with a black 63 Impala convertible?
It was in 1965, because he bought a new Oldsmobile.
Were you like 18?
Yeah.
18 years old with a, I can't imagine that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That was my third car.
Yeah.
I was coming home from work from Hazleton. 81 wasn't open yet on 309, and I drove by and up Simon Cabbage's in Mountaintop, where
Yeah.
Pro Rehab is now, right
I know
down.
what you're talking about.
The smoke shop in there,
Yeah.
down below. He had a car lot there, and it was an old gas station. And I'm driving home in the 52 Oldsmobile, right? And I looked like that, and I seen the car, and I thought, oh man. I turned around, I went right back, I talked to him, I went home, and I told my father I'm buying another car.
How long did it take until you got it next day?
No, that night
That night you went up and got it?
That I went up, I bought it right
So
on
did
the
that
spot.
start your love affair with Impalas?
Yeah,
So you were always into the Chevelles, always into General Motors.
yeah.
When did you get this car? How'd you get it?
I was in an accident, a motorcycle accident, Black Friday, 2011. I got hit right in front of Lake Harmony on 903. And the lady hit me and she come over the double lines, and she took the whole side of my leg off.
Damn.
And I had surgeries and
Yeah,
stuff or whatever. And that was the last, I told my family, that's the last time riding, I'm done. I had 50 years of riding and 10 new Harleys and stuff. And I told them I won't do it. And all my kids had motorcycles. And
Damn, too.
They all sold them. And a year later, like right around January or February, I'd start getting antsy because with the riding,
Yeah.
I'd be out in the garage getting my motorcycle, getting it all, I'd servicing it,
Yeah. Make sure it's
getting
ready.
it all ready. So as soon as the cinders were off of the road and I was
You
on
go.
the bike riding,
Yeah.
And I'd start shaking and I was getting miserable, and my wife says, you better find a hobby.
Find something to do.
Yeah. So I said, well, I know what I want to do. I want to get an old car and go to the car shows. I have buddies that do it.
Right.
And the one was the one I told you about before, Richie
Yeah.
Bosher. So we started looking around, and we looked at a lot of junk. And my one friend, he's got 2 Corvettes and a 67 Chevelle. My sons and all says, Dad, this stuff, there was a lot of junks we looked
Sure.
at,
You're combing through the cars.
Yeah, we're going through, checking them out and stuff. And my kid says, Dad, what do you really want? What would you want, right? I said, I want a 63 Super Sport. Hardtop, not
Yeah.
a convertible, because
Yeah.
I can't, with my bad legs, I can't take the wind out of the back,
Right.
right? So anyway, my buddy went to Corvette Carlisle down there, and he was talking to a guy about the Corvettes and stuff, and he says, I have a friend that's looking for a 63
Great.
Impala Super Sport. He says, I have one up in Fishkill, New York. He says, I have one in my garage up there.
And he was
Right.
interested in selling.
Yeah, yeah. He was a fireman from New York City, but this was up in Fishkill where he had his garages and stuff, and he did this on the side. He, you know,
Yeah.
and
Like buying and selling classic cars.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it ended up, we went up, my sons and myself and Bobby, my other buddy, and we went up and looked at it and we drove it home.
That's awesome. You didn't drive it home, no flatbed, drove that thing home.
We drove it home.
Nice.
Yeah, we drove it home, and
How many years ago was that?
that was in the beginning of 2000. The end of 2012.
Okay. So you've had it for about 8 years or a little more?
Yeah,
Right
the
on.
end of 2012.
So you said earlier it's a California car.
Yeah, it's a true California car.
So they had an actual model for California.
Yeah,
That's pretty wild.
yeah.
And what made it a California car versus something they sold in Detroit or in Pennsylvania?
The main thing was the air conditioning.
Yeah. So not every car came with air conditioning.
Not every car in '63 came with air conditioning, factory air. And this one was like the top of the line at the time. This is
Yeah.
the SS and stuff,
Yeah.
you know?
Came with AC.
It came with AC and a tilt wheel, and that was rare.
Right. Oh, so like hand position, bringing it down
Yeah,
or
bring
up.
it down or up, yeah, it had a tilt wheel to it. And both them things I really wanted, I was gonna do anyway, you
Right.
know?
Right. So yeah,
But anyway, we drove it home and
that's awesome.
that was it, here it is, you know?
The wife was happy then that you had a
Yeah.
hobby.
Yeah,
yeah, she's
no,
good.
she still says, well, I told you to get a hobby.
Yeah.
So I
think
did.
you- I
That's
think you
my
did it
hobby.
right. I think
Yeah.
you definitely did it right.
Yeah, so it's good.
Tell me about, have you done anything to the interior? Have you done anything to the exterior? Or is it pretty much how you bought it and you're keeping it?
The exterior is pretty much how I bought it.
Right.
The only thing is I did change the moldings on the side,
Oh, yeah.
but we won't get into that.
I heard that
right?
story.
Yeah, and I changed that, but the paint is pretty much
Original.
original.
Wow.
Yeah. The interior, I had, back in the back, the two panels up on the top where the lights are when you open
Yeah.
the door, you know, the side panels up there, they were a little raggedy, so I did replace them.
Wow.
But other than
And
that,
that's pretty original.
yeah,
That's
didn't
incredible.
do anything with the seats, nothing. The carpeting is wore a little bit, but I don't want to touch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
I
wouldn't
drive
tell
it the
you-
way it is.
Right.
I
that's
can't
it.
drive it with a mat on it because I don't have the feeling in my legs and feet.
Right.
So I,
The mat,
with no
mat
mats,
sliding around.
I don't care if it wears out, it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, yeah. And like you said, you drive it.
I
It's not,
drive
it doesn't
it,
sit in the garage. It's
Yeah.
not like a,
Yeah.
beauty queen in a garage somewhere.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. Any good stories about the car? Like anything like ever happened, like in it or around it that you're like, oh, like almost getting hit or anything like that?
Well, none of that.
No?
The fellow that's coming after me, Bruce, I was taking him for a ride in it after I got it the way I wanted it and everything. And we pull out of Lake Francis. I don't know
Yeah.
if you're familiar,
Right.
on the 437.
Yeah,
It might have been midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning.
yeah, yeah.
And I pulled out of there and I dropped her down in a gear and we got on it. I let her rip.
I know
okay?
that spot.
You know the spot?
I know
Coming
that
back
spot.
to Wilkes-Barre.
Yeah, going uphill.
Going uphill.
Yeah,
Yeah. But anyway,
Kiwi Bridge.
yeah.
I know
Getting
that.
on it and I hit third gear. I changed the transmission in this to make it fun. It's
Right.
not a stick, it's
Right.
an automatic, but it's a 350 turbo.
Okay.
Street and strip.
So you kind of like
You can
work
shift
it.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
You just tap it, it shifts for you,
I
yeah.
gotcha.
But anyway, I hit third gear and the lights went out.
That's a bad stretch. It's straight, but it's a bad stretch.
The lights went out, right? And my first because I was cranking pretty good, and my first reaction was hit the brakes, right? Well, there's no seatbelts in here,
Right.
And Bruce was sitting in the passenger side. He went flying.
That's good. That's a good. How'd you get them on? Did you stop?
What?
Did you just like?
Well, yeah, I held the wheel straight. I figured I was in the middle of the road. I'll hold it straight. I know there's no curbs, right?
No, there's not.
And
yeah.
just bring it to a stop.
Yeah.
But there's no lights. There's
No,
nothing. The
there's
moon
nothing.
wasn't out there.
No,
was
there's
nothing.
no street
It was-
lights. There's nothing.
It was pitch black, right? And I'm thinking, and we're looking at each other. I'm thinking, how the hell are we going to get home?
Yeah.
Right? And I remembered Walder's Hardware. I bought one of them little Larry flashlights, the flat
Yeah,
one,
yeah.
you know?
I know what you're talking about.
You know the
Little
one I'm
Larry.
talking- Yeah, the little Larry,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it's
And
got a
had
magnet on it.
I had it in the console, right? So well, that's the only flashlight I had. Jeez, I said, okay. I pulled it out, and Bruce held the light outside the window like this. And that's how we came to
You're
Wilkes-Barre.
driving home like that?
We drove all the way to Wilkes-Barre
Like that with a Larry flashlight.
with that little Larry flashlight. I went over and bought 3 of them.
That's awesome. What was wrong with it? Like a fuse or something like that?
It was actually in the switch, in the light switch.
It's like a bad connection or
I
something.
I had changed the light switch, you know, and it was
Yeah.
an out of the country one. We won't go there.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
anyway, right? And that was the problem. So anyway, I put the
figured it
stock
out.
one back in, and we figured it out, and that was that.
That's
Yeah.
funny. That's exactly right. That's a great story.
Yeah.
What are those on the wheels? What are those spinners? Those
They're-
are like on a lot of the classic cars. But are those aftermarket? Or those come with the cars
Okay,
originally?
the story behind them, these are 1965, they're called knockoff hubcaps, or knockoff wheels, okay?
Is that like like the movie Grease? Like when you're racing down the highway, you could like run into the guy
Oh,
you're racing?
no. These here, in 63, Corvette came out with these wheels on. And they were true knockoffs. So in other words, all you had to do was take a mallet and hit it. It was more or less for racing.
To change the tire.
To change the tire. You hit it, there's a direction on them.
Right.
Okay? You would hit that with the
Oh, I
mallet.
see it off.
And the spinner would spin off. You pull the wheel off, put a new wheel on, put it back,
You're doing
and
it
tap
now.
it,
I got
right?
ya.
The only problem was the
In
different
Pennsylvania,
sides.
there's too many potholes?
No.
Oh, that's what I thought you were going to go
The
with.
difference was both sides were different.
Oh, I got you.
And
Well, I
what was
guess they have to
happening
be.
was they were actually coming loose and coming off.
I got you.
So
Which is a problem when you're driving
that's
a
a
Corvette.
problem when you're driving a Corvette.
Yeah.
So anyway, what General Motors did, in 65, they came out with the same wheel, the same spinner that goes on, but they have a funnel, and the wheels have the 5 lugs on them.
Okay. So
So the
you
wheels
still have
are,
lugs.
the wheels are put on with lugs, the funnel covers it, and then you put the spinner on and tap it.
I got you.
But they're original, they're 65s.
They're pretty cool.
Yeah.
See, I always thought they were like for some kind of hardcore racing when you guys were
No.
racing for pinks or whatever.
No, that's actually what they're for, yeah.
I
Take
got
take the wheels off quick.
It's still pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, hey, man, I dig the car. I appreciate you coming down here and showing it to us.
Yeah, no
it's
problem.
awesome. It's awesome.
No problem. Happy
And you
to
said
be
the
here.
color was white. They didn't come up with any awesome.
It was just, I don't know, you know,
It
it's
just seems
white.
like nowadays it's like graphite white, white pearl,
Well, I have
white
white,
sublime white. Like they can't just call something white or gray or black. It's got to be like.
I have a 2018 Silverado, and it's white pearl.
See, there you go. That's what I'm
It's white
talking
pearl,
about. They
yeah.
can't just call it something simple.
Yeah,
Hey, man, I
All
appreciate
right.
you coming down.
no problem.
Your car's awesome.
Thank you.
I'm jealous. I
Glad
love
to
it.
be here.
All right, folks. That's another edition of Orloski's Car Show and Tell. Hope you enjoyed it. Emil's awesome. Car's awesome. Story was awesome. Thanks a lot. Have a great night.